Welcome, dearly beloved anointed ones. When the clock hits zero, truth doesn't negotiate, it detonates. Chosen ones, listen carefully, because right now you're living in a countdown. Not the kind that ticks in the background of a boring office clock, but the kind heaven sets when it's about to flip an entire story upside down. 3, 2, 1, and suddenly everything that was stolen, delayed, or mocked is about to come back with interest. That's not fantasy, that's divine mathematics. Here's a fact that will blow your mind. Financial settlements in the physical world often take years of courtroom battles. But in the spiritual realm, repayment doesn't crawl through red tape. It drops the moment a cycle is complete. And your cycle of being overlooked, underpaid, and underestimated has officially expired. See, while they were laughing at your struggle, mistaking delay for denial, heaven was quietly calculating compound interest on every sleepless night you endured, every betrayal you survived, and every tear you buried in silence. You didn't just endure hardship, you bankrolled a payout with your pain. And here's where it gets funny. They thought you'd stay broke, stuck and begging, but instead you're about to become the one they'll need a payment plan just to catch up with. Imagine that. Your enemies needing installments to watch you shine. So buckle in, because this isn't just another promise of breakthrough. This is the countdown to their ending and your payday, all wrapped in one explosive finale. And trust me, when the clock strikes zero, even they will have to admit your name has been written on the check all along. Number 1, the countdown was never really about numbers. When heaven whispers 3, 2, 1, it isn't a stopwatch running down. It's the close of a cycle that no one can extend, no matter how powerful they think they are. Life moves in seasons, and those seasons aren't controlled by people, politics, or systems. They are governed by divine timing. For years you were forced to live inside a cycle of being pushed aside, cheated, and delayed. It felt endless, as if the world had forgotten you. But heaven doesn't let injustice repeat forever. Every cycle has an expiration date, and once it arrives, no force can drag it out 1 second longer. That's the moment the countdown points to, the second when heaven says, enough. The reason this hits so hard is because people mistake delay for power. They thought they had the upper hand because your rise wasn't immediate. They assumed silence meant weakness and hardship meant defeat. What they never understood is that every second of delay was actually working against them, not against you. Each time they schemed, each time they mocked, each time they thought they had more time to block you, the cycle kept ticking away, and the closer it got to zero, the more dangerous their position became, because when the clock runs out, what they sowed in darkness comes back multiplied in exposure. Your blessing is tied to divine timing, not human permission. That's why it doesn't matter how many doors they shut or how many opportunities they tried to withhold. The cycle has shifted in your favor. When heaven counts down, it's signaling that an entire era is ending. You're not just entering a new chapter, you're stepping out of an old season that can never return. The debts owed to you, the harvest of your endurance, the fruit of your resilience, those things unlock only when the appointed time arrives, and that time has now hit zero. What's shocking is this: they thought they had more time. They thought the cycle would drag on and on, giving them endless space to play with your life. But the countdown never moved for them. It was always moving toward you. Now, the cycle has ended, the page has turned, and the payout is no longer pending. It's live, it's active, and it's irreversible. The era where they fed off your delay has expired, and a brand new cycle of repayment has begun. Number 2. Their last strike was their undoing. They didn't realize that in trying one final time to sabotage you, they actually pressed the self-destruct button on themselves. For so long, they thrived on taking advantage of your silence, betting that you wouldn't fight back, assuming that you were too weak to withstand the pressure. But heaven has a way of flipping the script. Sometimes the very thing they planned to finish you with becomes the weapon that ends their own influence. That last scheme, that last smear, that last attempt to block your path wasn't a victory for them. It was their expiration notice. What makes this so powerful is that they couldn't stop themselves. Greed never knows when to quit. They already got away with so much, but it wasn't enough. They pushed further, digging a hole so deep they couldn't climb back out. That's how spiritual justice works. Pride drives people to go beyond their limit, and in doing so, they expose themselves. If they'd stopped earlier, they might have kept up the illusion of control. But their obsession with destroying you guaranteed their downfall. Think about it. Every attack against you was an investment in their own collapse. With each attempt, they drained their credibility, their energy, and their spiritual protection, and because they touched what was sacred, your destiny, they triggered consequences that no human can escape. That last attempt didn't just fail, it backfired so completely that it tore down everything they built, their reputation, their alliances, their influence, shaken to the core. The reason this is so critical for you to understand is because it proves that nothing formed against you ever had lasting power. Even their strongest move, the one they thought would finally silence you, was the move that sealed their fate. And while they sit in confusion, wondering how the tables turned so suddenly, you're stepping into the payoff of resilience. Their last strike was not your ending, it was their final act. It was the proof that they had nothing left to use against you. The very moment they thought they had won was the exact second the heavens ruled them out. That's why the countdown hit 0. And that's why you're about to be paid in full. Their undoing was written into their own attack. Number 3, you are being paid because they overdrew their debt. This is not just a poetic way of saying your time has come. This is an actual law of cause and effect playing out in real time. Every unjust action against you carried a price tag, whether they believed it or not. Every false word spoken, every door slammed, every opportunity stolen had a hidden interest attached to it. They weren't just harming you. They were building a debt with every move, a spiritual overdraft that kept growing while they thought they were winning. And heaven, unlike human banks, doesn't ignore overdrafts, it collects. That's why your payout isn't random or just about good karma, it's calculated. You endured what others would have quit under. You were used, mocked, and underestimated, while they gained short-term advantage off your pain. But every gain they made at your expense was borrowed, not owned. And like all borrowed things, it eventually comes due. That is what's happening now. The bill has arrived, and the only way to balance the ledger is for everything that was withheld to flow back to you with interest. This is also why your reward looks different from other people's blessings. You didn't cut corners to get here. You didn't manipulate, scheme, or betray to climb higher. You didn't take shortcuts that compromise your integrity. That's why your blessing feels heavier, richer, more undeniable. It's not just your portion. It's your portion plus repayment of everything stolen along the way. They overdrew their account, and the surplus now lands in your hands. What's even more striking is that they can't stop this process, even if they try. Spiritual debts are not like financial ones where someone can declare bankruptcy and walk away. Once a cycle closes, repayment is enforced automatically. That's why you'll see sudden opportunities open, unexpected funds appear, new platforms offered, or doors that were once locked swing wide. It's not luck. It's the repayment of a long-standing overdraft. Your payout is proof that the universe keeps perfect books. Nothing you lost is forgotten. Every sleepless night, every tear, every moment of humiliation has been turned into currency. They overdrew their account against you, and now the full balance with interest is being transferred back. That's why you're about to get paid in a way that no one can reverse or deny. Number 4, their stage has been dismantled while yours is being built. This is more than a clever phrase. It's the real shift happening right now. For a long time, they lived high off a stage that wasn't theirs to stand on. It was built from illusions, borrowed credibility, and the manipulation of others. They used charm to mask cruelty, appearances to hide emptiness, and lies to prop up an image of power they never truly had. But false stages don't last. They crack, they wobble, and eventually they collapse under their own weight. That collapse is not a slow rumor anymore, it's happening in plain sight. Piece by piece, the props they leaned on are being taken away. The networks, the allies, the stories they spun, gone. Their platform is shrinking until nothing remains but bare ground. At the same time, something opposite has been happening with you. While they were performing for attention, You were building in obscurity. While they craved applause, you were laying foundations in silence. You weren't given a stage made of cardboard, you were handed stone to build with. It took longer, it looked unimpressive, and it made you feel overlooked, but it was real. And now, because the foundation is strong, the stage being built for you cannot collapse. It's not temporary hype, it's enduring authority. This is why your rise feels different. You're not stepping into their old position, you're inheriting what's under it. You don't need their spotlight because you own the ground it once stood on. They performed, you transformed. They were loud, you were solid. And now, as their false platform crumbles, yours is emerging unshakable. This shift also explains why their collapse feels sudden to outsiders but obvious to you. You saw the cracks long ago. You knew their image couldn't hold because truth has a way of eroding lies from the inside out. What you're witnessing now is justice unfolding, not revenge. Their stage was temporary scaffolding built on deception. Yours is a foundation carved in stone. That's why your rise is unstoppable. You're not just replacing them, you're taking possession of what can't be faked, what can't be stolen, and what can't be toppled. Number 5. Your silence created their echo chamber of madness. They were addicted to your reactions, to the energy you gave every time you defended yourself, explained yourself, or tried to reason with them. Your words were like oxygen to their fire. They used your responses to justify their behavior and to convince themselves they still had control. But when you withdrew, you cut off their supply. What they mistook for power was really dependence. Without your energy, their entire framework started to crumble. At first, they probably celebrated your silence, thinking it was surrender. They thought you had given up, or that you'd lost the will to push back. But silence from someone who once engaged is not weakness, it's a form of power. It's a refusal to feed chaos. It's the moment you stop dancing to their music and suddenly they're left alone in the dark, dancing to nothing but the sound of their own footsteps. That's when the echo begins. Now their words, lies, and manipulations bounce back at them with no outlet, no distraction, and no one to absorb the impact. The echo chamber becomes a trap. Every accusation they made against you circles back like a boomerang. And every scheme they planned in secret starts to feel like paranoia stalking them. Their own voice becomes the judge, their own guilt the gavel, and their own thoughts the sentence. They are forced to confront themselves without the buffer of your reactions. This is why your withdrawal has been so devastating for them. It didn't just remove you from their reach, it exposed their emptiness. The truth is, they needed you far more than you ever needed them. They needed your energy to keep their illusions alive, and when that stopped, their illusions started to implode. What you're seeing now, their confusion, their breakdown, their public missteps, isn't random. It's the natural result of someone sitting in an echo chamber they built for others but trapped themselves inside. Your silence was not passive, it was a judgment. It shifted the stage from you to them, and now, as they sit surrounded by their own noise, they're discovering that their biggest enemy was never you. It was the voice in their own head, amplified by the absence of yours. Number 6. The reason you're about to get paid is because you survived without selling out. This is the part people rarely talk about. In a world where shortcuts are celebrated, where compromise is dressed up as strategy, and betrayal is rebranded as playing the game, you stayed the course. You endured humiliation, slow progress, and constant doubt without bending your integrity. That decision cost you years of struggle and countless nights wondering if it was worth it. But what you didn't see was how every act of restraint, every no to an easy but dirty opportunity, was building an account of authenticity that no one can counterfeit. Most people think blessings are only about talent, hard work, or luck. But there's a deeper currency at play: integrity. Every time you refused to lie, cheat, or manipulate to get ahead, you invested in a future where your success would not be temporary. People who took shortcuts may have gotten there faster, but their reward is fragile. They're constantly watching their back, rebuilding what crumbles, and trying to hide cracks in their story. You, on the other hand, built slow but real. You can stand under scrutiny. Your name can be spoken without shame. Your success will not collapse under its own weight. This is why your payment is not hush money, it's reward money. Hush money is what people get for staying quiet about something dirty. It's money laced with guilt and anxiety. Reward money is clean. It's a public acknowledgement of value. It's a declaration that you can be trusted with more because you proved faithful with little. That's the kind of payout you're stepping into now. What's powerful about this is that it's irreversible. Money gained through compromise can vanish as quickly as it came. But money earned through survival without selling out multiplies. It's not just finances, it's influence, doors, and respect that can't be bought. Your reward is also your protection because it isn't tied to their approval. It's tied to your authenticity. That's why when the breakthrough hits, it won't just be another paycheck. It will be a crown placed on top of a foundation you built with your own clean hands, and no one can take that away. Number 7, the hand that fed off you has been cut off. This is not just about someone losing access to you physically, it's about an entire spiritual pipeline being severed. For years, they lived off your light like it was an endless resource. They took your ideas, your kindness, your creativity, and your strength, and wore it as if it belonged to them. They smiled in your face while siphoning what you carried behind your back. They thought because you were giving freely, the flow would never end. But heaven has a cut-off point, and that point has been reached. What makes this shift so significant is that it isn't something you had to fight for. You didn't have to send warnings, call them out publicly, or expose them yourself. The connection has been removed at the root, silently and permanently. It's like a cord snapped that they didn't even know was holding them up. Now the flow they depended on, the inspiration, the insight, the favor, has dried up. They may still perform the same routines, but the power they used to borrow from you is gone. This is why their presence feels weaker. Their ideas sound recycled, and their influence seems to be shrinking. They're spiritually starving, not because you wished them harm, but because they built their survival around stealing what was never theirs to begin with. The supply was always yours, and heaven has finally redirected it back to its rightful owner. This is restoration at work. Everything they took, twisted or paraded as their own, now flows back into your hands multiplied. And the beauty of this moment is that it's irreversible. Even if they apologize, even if they try to mimic your old flow, they can't access what's no longer available. That chapter of draining your light is closed. They're left with themselves, and you're left with abundance. What once left you feeling drained will now leave you feeling replenished, because the energy, ideas, and opportunities that once leaked out to them are now cycling back to you. This isn't just a win, it's proof that your value was never in their hands. Heaven simply shifted the pipeline, and now you're about to experience the full strength of what you always carried, untouched and undivided. Number 8, their watchtower became their prison. For years they positioned themselves above you, studying your every move, dissecting your choices, and plotting their next step as if you were some kind of threat they had to neutralize. They built their identity around monitoring you, around knowing your every detail, and around anticipating your next breakthrough. It gave them a sense of power, a sense of control. But what they didn't realize was that this kind of obsessive watching creates its own trap. When you make someone else's life your reference point, you stop living your own. At first, their vigilance felt intimidating. It was invasive, unfair, and exhausting to endure. But slowly that same vigilance began to erode them from the inside out. The more they watched, the more suspicious they became. The more suspicious they became, the more paranoid they grew. And paranoia is a cage that locks from the inside. Now they can't make a single move without second-guessing themselves. They've created a world where every shadow looks like an enemy, every sound like a threat, and every setback like proof that someone is out to get them. Their watchtower no longer feels like a position of power. It's a surveillance cell they can't escape. Meanwhile, your freedom is blooming. Because you stopped feeding their obsession, you broke the invisible chain tying you to their gaze. You've moved on, expanded, and begun living without needing their approval or fearing their interference. The power they thought they had over you has dissolved, and what's left is them, alone, on a high perch that's crumbling beneath their feet. They climbed up thinking they'd see everything. Now all they see is their own fear reflected back at them. This is the irony of control. The tighter you grip something, the less of it you actually hold. They gripped your life so tightly that they lost their own. And now, you're not just surviving, you're thriving in a freedom they can't even imagine. Their watchtower was meant to keep you under observation. Instead, it became a monument to their obsession and a cage for their mind. You're walking in open space while they sit behind the bars they built with their own eyes. Number 9, your payday is tied to their exposure. This isn't just about you finally receiving what's yours, it's about the timing of justice. Your blessing isn't coming quietly or in the shadows, it's arriving as their mask is being torn away. The same system, person, or group that tried to hold you down is being unmasked in real time, and their exposure is the proof that your season has shifted. For years, they built a public image of power and control while working behind the scenes to block, exploit, or discredit you. They believed they could hide behind charm, status, or lies forever. But truth has a way of dismantling illusions, and the moment their facade cracks, everything they stole or delayed is forced into the open with it. This is why your breakthrough feels like it's connected to their downfall, because it is. Both events are like sunrise and sunset. One cannot happen without the other. The sun rises, darkness retreats. Your blessing arrives, their deception collapses. Heaven allows this overlap so that no one can deny the reality of what's happening. People who doubted you will see the exposure and understand why you were delayed. They will also see that your rise is not coincidence but consequence, proof of a divine reversal. What's even more powerful is that their exposure accelerates your blessing. Every false narrative they spun about you becomes evidence in your favor once the truth emerges. The lies they used to block opportunities turn into reasons for doors to swing open wider. The same voices that tried to smear you end up being the backdrop to your public vindication. Your payday isn't hush money to keep you quiet. It's public restoration that can't be denied. This is not about you gloating or celebrating their fall. It's about understanding that justice in the spiritual realm is precise. When cycles close, they close for everyone involved. The mask they wore was a lid over your blessing. With the mask gone, the lid is gone. That's why your rise is unavoidable now. It's not just compensation, it's confirmation. Their exposure is not a side note to your story, it's the announcement that your season of waiting has ended and your season of being paid has begun. Number 10, you outlasted their manipulated time frame. They were convinced that if they could drag things out long enough, you'd eventually collapse under the weight of delay. They used stalling tactics, false promises, diversions, and obstacles to make you feel like your destiny was slipping further and further away. In their minds, time was a weapon. They thought every extra month, every extra year was weakening you while strengthening their grip. But they forgot one critical truth. Time does not serve corruption. It serves truth. It may look slow, but it is always moving in favor of what's real. What they didn't understand is that delay doesn't destroy a foundation built on integrity, it fortifies it. Every season of waiting gave you deeper roots, sharper vision, and stronger resilience. While they were burning energy trying to hold you back, you were quietly becoming someone they could never overtake. They built their plans on manipulation, and manipulation always has an expiration date. They were counting on time to do their work for them, but time betrayed them because their methods were rotten from the inside. This is why your breakthrough now carries weight. You're not just stepping into what you were owed, you're stepping into a multiplied version of it. The natural order restores everything with interest because of what you endured without giving up. All the progress they thought they'd stolen, all the opportunities they tried to bury, all the relationships they tried to poison, none of it was lost. It was accumulating. It was growing under the surface like a seed that had been underestimated. And now, because you outlasted their manipulated time frame, the reversal is permanent. You're entering a season where the time you lost will show up as acceleration. Where they tried to stall your progress, you'll find doors opening faster, opportunities appearing back to back, and favor compounding like interest on a long overdue debt. This isn't random. It's the law of return kicking in. Their delays didn't stop your destiny. They guaranteed its impact. You outlived the game, and now time itself has switched sides. Instead of working against you, it's working for you, ushering you into restoration that is not only timely but unstoppable. Number 11. Their network was a web that collapsed on its own. They were convinced they had created something unbreakable, a system of alliances, favors, and secret agreements designed to keep you trapped and under their control. They mistook numbers for strength and confusion for power, but webs spun from lies are always weaker than they appear. They hold for a while, but only because they're built in the dark. Once light hits them, the threads start to break and the whole structure falls apart without anyone needing to touch it. That's what's happening now. You didn't have to wage a public war or expose each person one by one. You didn't need to prove your innocence to every onlooker. The network they built was never sustainable because its glue was deception. Deception is powerful for a moment, but it has no lasting substance. It rots from the inside. The truth, even if it seems slow, always has a dissolving effect. One revelation at the right time can undo years of plotting. One piece of exposure can make 1,000 fake alliances scatter. This is why their collapse looks sudden. From the outside, it appears like everything fell apart overnight. But the decay has been happening for a long time. The smiles got thinner, the loyalty became shaky, and the hidden tensions grew until the web could no longer hold. By the time the light fully hit it, it was already crumbling. What you're witnessing now isn't just karma. It's the inevitable result of a system that cannot survive honesty. And here's the power of it. You didn't have to get tangled in their drama to be free. You simply had to stay in truth, and truth did the work for you. While they were busy maintaining an illusion, you were busy growing stronger outside of it. That's why their collapse leaves you untouched. Their network was built to trap you, but all it did was ensnare them in their own threads. Now, as it disintegrates, you're walking forward clean, unbound, and unmarked by the lies they tried to spin around you. Their web was never your prison. It was their undoing waiting to happen. Number 12, your payday is not just money, it's dominion. What's coming to you isn't just a financial windfall or a string of lucky breaks. It's a formal transfer of authority. For years you labored, endured, and persevered without compromising your integrity. You weren't simply building a career or trying to make it. You were establishing a claim, even when you didn't realize it. Every time you held your ground under pressure, every time you created with pure motives, every time you refused to bow to manipulation, you were laying the groundwork for ownership. That's why this moment is so different. It's not just another blessing. It's a legal declaration in the unseen realm that what was once contested is now yours. Money on its own is temporary. It comes and goes. But dominion is enduring. It means you no longer operate as a guest in spaces where you've been called to lead. It means the influence, opportunities, and resources heading your way aren't just perks. They're tools, keys, and evidence of jurisdiction. Territories where you were once restricted, overlooked, or sabotaged are opening not because someone is doing you a favor, but because the power dynamics have shifted. The authority that was wrongly occupied is being handed back to its rightful owner, you. This is also why your next season won't feel like striving. When you were building with nothing, every move was uphill, but dominion flips the ground under your feet. Now doors swing open because they're responding to your name, not your effort. People who once ignored you will now seek your approval, not because you become arrogant, but because they instinctively recognize a shift in who carries the keys. And this isn't just symbolic, it's functional. Dominion means your voice carries weight where it used to be silenced. It means resources flow to you rather than leak away. It means you set the terms instead of being bound by someone else's conditions. This is why your payday feels bigger than a payout. It's not hush money and it's not compensation for a loss. It's the visible evidence that you've inherited the very ground where you once fought to survive. You're stepping into ownership of what they tried to control, and no one can reverse that transfer. Number 13. Their desperation became your documentation. In their frantic attempt to destroy you, they left behind a paper trail that speaks louder than any defense you could have given. Every rumor they spread, every false report they drafted, every fabricated accusation they whispered into the ears of others was not just an attack. It was evidence being gathered against them. They thought they were building a case to bury you, but what they were really doing was writing a public record of their own corruption. It's poetic justice in motion. Their plots became your proof. Their lies became your leverage. Their obsession became your receipt. This is why you're stepping into a season where you won't need to argue, plead, or vindicate yourself. The very words they used to smear you are being reread under a different light, this time as exhibits of malice and manipulation. Heaven has a way of flipping narratives. Those texts, emails, recordings, and whispers they weaponized against you have been stored, archived, and timed for release at the exact moment it would do the most good. You didn't even need to collect it. Their desperation ensured they documented their own schemes. Compensation doesn't only come in the form of money, it comes in the restoration of your name, the rebuilding of your reputation, and the public acknowledgement of truth. And because their lies traveled far, your vindication will travel even farther. The very people who once doubted you will now see the truth laid bare. And some of the same hands that tried to push you down will be forced to lift you up, not out of kindness, but because the evidence demands it. This is not just karma, this is legal and spiritual symmetry. The boomerang they threw at you returns as a signed confession. It's also why your elevation will be undeniable. You're not rising on rumors, you're rising on documented proof. Every false word spoken against you is now a ledger entry in your favor, and that ledger is being cashed out as opportunity, favor, and financial recompense. Their desperation gave you the only thing you could never manufacture yourself. Undeniable proof that you were who you said you were all along. Number 14. The countdown is not for you, it's for them. Those 3, 2, 1 moments you've been sensing aren't a signal for you to brace yourself or keep holding on. They're heaven's announcement that what was once tolerated is now being terminated. For years you may have thought the delays in your life meant you weren't ready, or that your blessing was still somewhere in the distant future. In reality, those pauses weren't about your readiness at all. They were about the clock ticking down on the systems, people, and forces that tried to hold you hostage. What felt like waiting was actually a stage being cleared. This is why the shift you're about to see will feel sudden. You've already crossed into paid in full. The unseen work has been completed. Your debts, spiritual, emotional, and even financial, are being balanced. You're no longer standing in a line hoping your number comes up. You're already stamped, sealed, and released. The countdown you're hearing now is heaven saying to your opposition, time's up. It's the end of their access, the end of their grip, the end of their illusion of control. When a countdown reaches 0, it doesn't just mark an ending, it triggers an activation. The very moment their reign expires is the moment your public chapter begins. This is why you're feeling an internal calm, even while things around you seem unstable. Deep down, you know the waiting isn't on you anymore. You've already been shifted into a new position. The external world is just catching up to what's been decided. And because this countdown isn't about you, you won't have to struggle or claw your way into what's next. You'll walk into it as someone whose account is already settled. Paid in full means there's nothing left to negotiate. Case closed means the accusations lose their power, and every obstacle they built collapses under its own expired authority. You're stepping into a space where time no longer delays you. It works for you. The countdown was never a warning for you to hurry up. It was a warning for them to clear out. Now 0 isn't an ending, it's the sound of your freedom detonating. Everything you've endured, every delay, every attempt to block you, every whisper and attack, they were never permanent. They were the prelude to a shift so powerful that it doesn't just restore what was taken from you, it amplifies it. You didn't just survive, you outlasted timelines, manipulations, and fake networks. You refused to compromise, refused to sell out, and refused to feed into chaos. And because of that, your breakthrough isn't temporary or conditional, it's absolute. Your payday is more than money. It's authority, it's restoration. It's proof that what was meant for you cannot be stolen, delayed, or diminished. They built their power on borrowed energy and illusions, but those illusions have crumbled. Every lie they told has turned into evidence in your favor. Every false narrative they spread has become documentation of their own undoing. Their desperation has exposed them, their countdown has expired, and their stage is collapsing. All while yours rises, permanent and unshakable. You don't inherit scraps, you inherit dominion. You don't get quiet compensation, you get vindication, recognition, and the full manifestation of what is rightfully yours. Now, as the final pieces fall into place, one thing becomes clear. This isn't just a moment of triumph. It's a declaration. It's a cosmic statement that truth always wins, that integrity always pays, and that those who underestimated you were never in control. You are stepping into a season where energy, influence, and opportunities flow directly to you, unblocked, unstoppable, undeniable. So take it in fully. Feel it. Own it. You've crossed the threshold from surviving to thriving, from overlooked to celebrated, from delayed to fully paid. The countdown was never for you. It was for them. And now the universe is ensuring that everything they tried to withhold, manipulate, or steal is returned to you multiplied. This is your time. This is your proof. This is your dominion. You didn't just win, you've arrived. If this message resonated with you, don't just watch it. Claim it. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a moment when your breakthrough is being activated. Like this video to lock in your energy with what's real. Comment below and share your story. Your words could inspire someone else who's waiting for their own season to arrive. And don't forget to share this with those who need to see that patience, truth, and integrity always pay off. Your support helps spread the message and reminds the world that the chosen ones are rising, unstoppable and fully paid. God bless you.